Emma stood frozen in Mark's doorway, surrounded by cardboard boxes and a single suitcase, her long white blonde hair catching the morning light. The look on his face, pure shock mixed with something like terror, almost made her turn around and leave. But she couldn't. Not after what he'd said last night. Not after she'd finally made the decision that would change both their lives forever. "You said your door was always open," she said softly, her voice barely audible over the sound of his 5-year-old daughter's cartoons playing in the background. "Did you mean it?" What happened next would transform a simple neighborly friendship into something neither of them had ever dared to hope for. But the path there would be anything but simple. 3 months earlier, Emma Matthews had moved into apartment 4B, directly across from single dad Mark Donovan and his daughter Lily in 4A. Their first meeting had been anything but promising. "I'm so sorry about the noise," Mark had said, looking exhausted as he stood in Emma's doorway at 11 p.m., his daughter crying in his arms. "She's running a fever, and nothing I do seems to help." Emma, still in her work clothes after a 14-hour shift at the hospital, had simply nodded. "It's fine. I'm a pediatric nurse. May I?" She'd reached for the little girl without thinking, professional instinct taking over. What she didn't expect was how naturally Lily would curl into her arms, or how the child's cries would immediately begin to soften. Or how, when she looked up, she'd find Mark staring at her with an expression of such naked gratitude that something inside her chest had shifted, making room for these strangers who didn't feel like strangers at all. Now, standing in his doorway with her life packed in boxes, Emma wondered if she'd completely misread everything that had happened since. "Emma?" Mark finally found his voice. "What are you?" "Daddy, who's at the door?" Lily appeared behind her father, her face lighting up when she spotted Emma. "Miss Emma. Did you bring pancakes again?" Emma smiled despite her nerves. "Not today, sweetie. I actually—" "She's moving in," Mark said suddenly, his eyes never leaving Emma's face. "Remember what we talked about last night?" Lily squealed with delight, running to hug Emma's legs. "You're going to live with us? Forever and ever?" Emma's eyes filled with tears as she looked at Mark questioningly. "I thought, last night, when you said I should just move in since I'm here all the time anyway. I thought you meant it." Mark stepped forward, taking one of her boxes. "I did," he said quietly. "I just never thought you would." But as Emma would soon discover, not everyone was happy about her sudden appearance in the Donovan household. And the person who posed the greatest threat to their newfound happiness was closer than any of them realized. Mark Donovan had never considered himself a lucky man. His wife walking out when Lily was just 6 months old had confirmed that belief. For 5 years, he'd focused solely on raising his daughter and building his architectural design business from their modest 2-bedroom apartment. Dating wasn't even on his radar. Then Emma Matthews had moved in across the hall, and suddenly he found himself inventing reasons to run into her. Borrowing sugar. Asking for help with a medical question about Lily. Offering to help carry her groceries. Emma slipped into their lives so naturally that Mark barely noticed it happening. Movie nights on Fridays. Pancake breakfasts on Sundays. Emergency babysitting when his meetings ran late. Her apartment became Lily's second home, and Mark found himself lingering longer each time he picked his daughter up. "You know," he'd said the previous night, watching Emma help Lily with her kindergarten homework at his kitchen table, "you might as well move in at this point. You're here more than you're at your own place." He'd meant it as a joke, mostly. A way to acknowledge how integral she'd become to their lives without risking the rejection that seemed inevitable if he admitted his growing feelings. He never expected her to take him seriously. Now, 2 weeks after Emma had appeared with her boxes, Mark stood in his kitchen watching her dance around with Lily, teaching his daughter how to make proper French toast. Morning sunlight streamed through the windows, catching in Emma's silky hair as she laughed, her perfect figure moving gracefully even in pajama pants and one of his old t-shirts. You're staring again, Donovan, Emma said without turning around, a smile in her voice. Can you blame me? He replied, the words out before he could stop them. She turned then, a faint blush coloring her cheeks, and Mark felt that now familiar tightening in his chest. Living together as roommates was becoming the sweetest torture he'd ever experienced. Daddy, Miss Emma said we can go to the park after breakfast. Lily announced, breaking the moment. Did she now? Mark raised an eyebrow. And did Miss Emma remember that we have dinner with Grandma tonight? Emma's smile faltered slightly. I remembered. I just thought, maybe I should stay home. Give you family time. You are family, Lily said firmly, with all the certainty of a 5-year-old. Mark watched Emma's eyes fill with tears before she quickly turned back to the stove. He wanted to go to her, to tell her that Lily was right, that somehow in just a few months she'd become essential to them both. But the words stuck in his throat. What he didn't know was that his mother, Patricia Donovan, had already made up her mind about Emma Matthews. And she was coming to dinner with an agenda that would threaten everything they were building. So, Emma, Patricia said coolly, cutting her chicken with precision, Mark tells me you moved in rather suddenly. Emma shifted uncomfortably in her seat. It was a bit impulsive, I suppose. Patricia's disapproval was palpable. And your lease on your apartment? I'm subletting to a colleague for now, Emma explained. It's a temporary arrangement while we figure things out. Figure what out, exactly? Patricia pressed. Your relationship with my son seems quite ambiguous. Mom, Mark warned, glancing at Lily who was happily coloring at the small kids' table nearby. I'm simply concerned, Patricia continued. Lily is at an impressionable age. Having women move in and out of her life. Emma isn't moving out, Mark interrupted firmly. Patricia raised an eyebrow. No? Then what exactly is she to you, Mark? Roommate? Girlfriend? Convenient live-in babysitter? That's enough, Mark said, his voice low but sharp. Emma stood abruptly. I should check on Lily. As she walked away, Mark turned to his mother. What are you doing? Protecting you and my granddaughter, Patricia replied. Do you even know anything about this woman? Where she came from? Why she was so eager to insert herself into your lives? I know everything I need to know, Mark said. Patricia leaned forward. Do you know she was engaged before moving here? That her fiancé died suddenly? That she left her entire life behind and moved across the country afterward? Mark stared at his mother, feeling the blood drain from his face. How do you? I had her checked out, Patricia said unapologetically. She's running from something, Mark. And you and Lily are convenient shelter from whatever storm she's trying to escape. Across the room, Emma stood frozen, having heard every word. The colored pencil she'd been handing to Lily snapped in her grip. Miss Emma? Lily looked up, concerned. Are you okay? Emma forced a smile. I'm fine, sweetie. I just remembered I have to make a phone call. I'll be right back. She slipped out onto the balcony, hands shaking as she pulled out her phone. Behind her, through the glass door, she could see Mark and his mother still arguing. She couldn't hear the words, but his expression told her everything. Patricia Donovan had done her research well. But she didn't know the whole story. Nobody did. And Emma had promised herself she would never burden Mark with it. Maybe coming here had been a mistake after all. Were you ever going to tell me? Mark asked later that night, after his mother had left and Lily was asleep. Emma sat on the edge of the sofa, hands clasped tightly in her lap. About David? Eventually. It's not something I like to talk about. Your fiancé died, Emma. That's not some minor detail. It was 2 years ago, she said quietly. A car accident. I wasn't. I wasn't in a good place afterward. Mark sat beside her, not touching but close enough that she could feel his warmth. So you moved here to start over? Something like that. Emma stared at her hands. I'm sorry I didn't tell you. It just never seemed like the right time. Is my mother right? Mark asked, his voice carefully neutral. Are Lily and I just a safe harbor for you? Something to help you heal? Emma looked up then, her eyes fierce despite the tears gathering in them. No. God, no. You and Lily, you're not a distraction or a bandage. You're... She stopped, struggling for words. We're what? Mark pressed, his heart pounding. You're the reason I believe in second chances, she whispered. You're the future I never thought I'd have again. The silence between them stretched, filled with all the things they'd been afraid to say. I made that joke about you moving in because I was too scared to ask for real, Mark finally admitted. I've been falling in love with you for months, Emma. But I didn't want to rush you, or confuse Lily, or ruin what we already had. Emma's breath caught. You love me? Instead of answering, Mark leaned forward and kissed her, gently at first, then with growing intensity as she responded. When they finally pulled apart, both breathless, he rested his forehead against hers. Does that answer your question? He asked, his voice rough. Emma smiled, the first genuine smile since dinner. I think I need more convincing. But as their relationship deepened over the following weeks, Emma's past wasn't finished with her. The storm Patricia had warned about was indeed coming, just not in the way any of them expected. The letter arrived on a Tuesday, nearly 2 months after Emma had moved in. Official letterhead, formal language, and a request that made her blood run cold. What is it? Mark asked, finding her standing motionless in the kitchen, the paper trembling in her hands. David's parents, she said numbly. They're contesting his will. The insurance money he left me, they're saying I coerced him into changing his beneficiary. Mark took the letter, scanning it quickly. This is ridiculous. They can't possibly. They can, Emma interrupted. They're wealthy, connected. And they never approved of me. They thought I was after his money. Were you? The question came from the doorway, where Patricia stood with Lily's hand in hers, having arrived to take her granddaughter shopping. Mom, Mark warned. It's a fair question, Patricia insisted. If these people are making such accusations. I loved David, Emma said quietly. I never wanted his money. I tried to give it back to them after he died, but they refused to even see me. Now they want to drag me through court, make me relive everything. Her voice broke. Lily pulled away from her grandmother and ran to Emma, wrapping small arms around her waist. Don't cry, Miss Emma. Daddy can fix it. Daddy fixes everything. Emma stroked Lily's hair, meeting Mark's eyes over the child's head. The love and concern she saw there nearly undid her. Maybe. She began hesitantly, maybe I should move back to my apartment for a while. Deal with this without dragging you both into it. No. Lily cried, tightening her grip. That's not happening, Mark said firmly. We face this together. Patricia stepped forward, surprising everyone by placing a hand on Emma's shoulder. My son can be stubborn to a fault, she said. But in this case, he's right. Family stands together. Emma stared at the older woman. I thought you didn't trust me. I'm protective, Patricia corrected. But I've watched you with my son and granddaughter these past months. Whatever brought you here, your love for them is real. She straightened, suddenly all business. Now, my late husband's law firm specializes in estate disputes. I'll make some calls. As Patricia pulled out her phone and walked into the living room, Mark moved to Emma's side, wrapping an arm around her and Lily both. See, he murmured against her hair. We've got this. For the first time since the letter arrived, Emma allowed herself to believe it might be true. 6 months later, Emma stood in the same doorway where she'd arrived with her boxes, watching as Mark knelt before Lily, adjusting the flower crown in the little girl's hair. "Do I look pretty, Daddy?" Lily asked anxiously. "The prettiest flower girl ever," Mark assured her, his voice thick with emotion. Emma's heart swelled as she watched them, still amazed that this was her life now. The legal battle with David's parents had ended in a settlement, with Patricia's connections proving invaluable. The past was finally laid to rest, allowing Emma to fully embrace her future. "It's time." Patricia appeared beside her, elegant in her mother-of-the-groom outfit. "Are you ready?" Emma nodded, smoothing down her simple white dress. "More than ready." As they walked together toward the small garden where friends and family waited, Patricia squeezed her arm. "I was wrong about you," she admitted. "You were exactly what my son and granddaughter needed." "What we all needed," Emma corrected gently. "Family." The ceremony was brief but heartfelt. When Mark recited his vows, his voice steady and sure, Emma couldn't hold back her tears. "When you showed up at my door with those boxes," he said, "I thought you were crazy. Now I know you were just braver than me. Brave enough to take a chance on us. I promise to spend the rest of my life being worthy of that courage." As they sealed their vows with a kiss, Lily cheered loudest of all, throwing flower petals over them both. Later, at the small reception in their apartment building's communal garden, Emma found a moment alone with her new husband. "Happy?" Mark asked, pulling her close. "Beyond words," she replied, resting her head on his shoulder. "Thank you for that joke about moving in. Best terrible pickup line ever." Mark laughed, the sound rumbling through his chest. "I've got plenty more where that came from. You're stuck with my dad jokes for life now. Promise?" Emma asked, looking up at him. His expression softened as he brushed a strand of hair from her face. "Promise." As they rejoined their guests, Emma caught sight of Lily showing Patricia how to make a proper flower crown. The two generations bonded in shared purpose. This was her family now, imperfect, unexpected, and more precious than anything she could have imagined when she'd packed those boxes and taken the biggest risk of her life. Sometimes, Emma realized, the most beautiful journeys begin with a single step, or in her case, a single joke that turned out to be the most serious invitation of all. If this story touched your heart, please like and subscribe to see more content like this. I'd love to know which country you're watching from. Share in the comments below.